Welcome back to Movies TV Mad, and of course you can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and welcome to Wednesday's edition of the dceu Daily. Look at this beautiful poster. I may not have the gadgets and editing software to show this to you properly. I am working on all of that, so please stick on this channel. This is the latest poster from Matt Reeves, the Batman, and it looks brilliant. You can see Bruce Wayne at the bottom there with a kind of question mark drawn upon him. Wow. Then you can see the Penguin. You can see Catwoman. Wow, wow, wow. And you can see the Batman at the very top there. It is a brilliant poster. You can see the Batmobile just behind Bruce Wayne, swirling out of some fire. So it is a really, really awesome poster. In fact, all the posters have been absolutely fantastic, like everything coming out of this movie. So yesterday, they showed us another version of the car chase scene between Batman and Oswald Cobblepot, aka the Penguin. What I love about this scene, it is so dynamic in the sense that Oswald really thinks he's getting away, and you can see the look in Pattinson's eyes that he's going after him with sheer force of will. He's really willing himself to catch up with him. Clearly the car is a very, very fast car, but when it comes out of the flames, it's absolutely fantastic. So this was a kind of a new take on the same scene, but you can see the dynamism in Reeves' kind of ability to shoot a chase. I think it's probably the best chase scene I've ever seen in my life. So imagine not looking at it via your device and looking at it on a big screen, via IMAX as well. Absolutely beautiful. And, you know, I just can't wait to go back and watch this film again. So yeah, it's a dynamic chase scene. You really feel the determination in Batman via the acting. And it's all about the eyes, isn't it? When you've got the cowl on, you can only perform and show the emotions that you have as an actor via the eyes. And that just shows you what a wonderful physical actor Robert Pattinson is. If you are not following the Batman Film News account on Twitter, you are missing out on so many quotes from Matt Reeves, Robert Pattinson, and everyone involved in this movie. They're talking and talking and talking about this movie, and it just gives me a buzz getting all this information through. Robert Pattinson on the Batman. I sincerely believe that the tone of the Batman has nothing to do opposed to the previous movies. It feels new. In the comics, Batman is someone more unstable. If you read between the lines, it's actually very sad. And this is what I've always said to people when the movie was in production and pre-production. I said that this film would be very faithful to the comic books. This could be the most faithful comic book adaptation that's ever been made. And when I say it could be, for me, my opinion is, having seen the movie, is. But obviously, comic book people have very different opinions. We go on. Whereas in the cinema, it's always his heroic side that is put forward. The Batman does the opposite. We capture the inner bubbling of the character, in my opinion. The only other to achieve this is the animated film Batman, The Mask of Phantasm. Now that, of course, is an animated movie. In fact, it's also a graphic novel. But it just shows you the depth of Reeves's and Pattinson's knowledge of Batman. This may be the first time that the director and the lead actor playing Batman and Bruce actually are genuine, bona fide Batman fans and stans, and that's great for us, believe you me. When I saw it, it clicked. Being Batman is kind of a curse. It's a burden. But hey man, you've decided that, right? No, no, no. I have to be Batman. I was chosen, not the other way round. I don't think we ever really seen that in a live film. So this is Robert Pattinson really talking about who Batman is inside his soul, but also discussing how in previous movies he's pretty much just a hero. I think in Ben Affleck's BVS performance you could see something bubbling over, the anger, the frustration with Superman. So it's been there a little bit, but when you see this film, you will see this, hardcore, and you will feel that this really is the Batman from the comics, and that should be very exciting for every Batman fan. Zoe Kravitz on the Bat-Cat relationship. This is something I've discussed before on this channel, having seen the movie. This is kind of partially a love story, but not a silly, sassy love story. They need each other. They are helping each other. That's how it starts. Anyway, this is how Zoe sees it. Both characters sneak around each other, get to know each other, and try to assess one another. Fate brings them both together, so to speak, because they both need each other, but without knowing where the path will end. As I say, this is a very different way of doing this romance. As a kid, I just thought Catwoman was a villain. She was part of the Rogues Gallery. I didn't actually know there was a relationship between Selina, Bruce, Cat and the Bat. So I think this is a really interesting element, and I don't want to say too much how this is executed within the film, because you are not ready, because I wasn't ready. So absolutely fantastic. Robert Pattinson is talking the Batman again, but more really in this quote, he's talking about his love for Batman. So Rob is a Batman fan, as said by the Batman Film News, and that is a fact. It's not BS, it's true. The Batman franchise is probably the only one in which I've seen every film in theatres. In fact, I think I was always in the theatres on the opening weekend. Especially as a kid, I was a massive Batman fan who just loved the films. And this is the same for me in terms of Superman. Now, I'm a huge Batman fan. I think Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman are the best superheroes out there. But for me, I will never, ever miss a Superman film or anything involving Superman. That's where my fandom is. And it's the same for Rob here with Batman. So it's absolutely amazing that he's playing Batman. And I want to say something, because I think Matt Reeves has been quoted in talking about that people who weren't happy about Pattinson's casting had only seen him in Twilight, and the people who were happy saw him in other stuff. Let me be absolutely clear here. Robert Pattinson has always delivered great performances. He was great in Twilight. The Twilight franchise means a lot to a lot of people, and I am sick to death of the putting down of this franchise. Now listen, I'm not a fan of Twilight. It wasn't my thing. But there are people who love Rob for Twilight, who are going to be paying and making this film even more money because of Twilight. So we need to respect those fans as well. One thing about Matt Reeves, he's been very honest with us, the public, and Warner Brothers, what he wanted and what he didn't want. And he didn't want his Batman and his movies and his universe to be connected to the DCEU. There's many reasons for this, and I've said this before. He's not opposed to having an extended connected universe of his own, but he knows the DC extended universe canonically is a bit of a clusterfuck, and he didn't want to be involved in that. And he pretty much says it here, and I do love the guy's honesty. Ben Affleck had been working on a version of the script, and I said, here's the thing. I respect that the DC universe has become an extended universe and all the movies were kind of connected, but another Batman film, it shouldn't have to carry the weight of connecting the characters from all those other movies. I didn't want them in there. So again, very blatant. But, and I'll try and find the quote, because he's talking about it depends how the Batman does, which it's going to do great. We all know that already. I've seen the film. It's going to be great. You're all going to fucking love it. Don't worry about that. But he is saying there are a lot of plans to continue the Earth 2 and to expand what he's doing with Batman. So it goes beyond Penguin, the Penguin spin-off on HBO Max, and the Gotham PD spin-off on HBO Max as well. So I'll try and find that quote after we deal with this. And so what he's saying is, he's been blatantly honest. He wants nothing to do with the DCEU Earth 1. But to be fair, he is doing a huge expanded universe of his own on Earth 2. So he's not opposed to expanding things. He just wants his own paintbrush and his own clay to mould. He wants his own universe to expand, and he doesn't want to touch the DCEU, and I absolutely am fine with it, and I'm sure everyone is going to be fine with it going forward. Obviously, you're going to have the multiverse strategy, which is very, very exciting, but it's very interesting to know that Matt Reeves is expanding his own Earth 2, and it'll be interesting if both of them will be successful, or his will be more successful than the multiverse strategy. That is going to be very fascinating going forward. And here's a very, very brief quote about here's a very brief quote from Matt Reeves about the future of Earth 2 and the Batman universe. It will obviously have a lot to do with how people receive this film. They're going to receive it great, I can assure you of that. Everyone who's had early screenings, as myself, of this film thinks it's amazing. We've all been blown away by it, so there's no question of that. So basically he says it will obviously have a lot to do with how people receive this film, but a lot of things are in the works. A lot of things are in the works. Let's not forget, he and J.J. Abrams are working on a new Batman, the animated series. Exciting. J.J. Abrams is very much also involved in the future of DC live action. As I say, both worked together before. Very exciting partnerships are going to be on the off. And it wouldn't surprise me if J.J.'s Superman of Colour project, written by Ta-Nehisi Coates, may have something to do with the Batman Earth 2. That may be the Batman in Matt's Earth 2 universe. Very exciting. So there are a lot of plans. As I say, you're going to see this film. You're going to see what Matt's attempting to do, not just with Earth 2, but with his Batman. But there's a lot of plans, and as he says, there's a lot of stuff in the works, and that, my friends, makes me extremely excited, not just for the future of Matt Reeves' Earth 2, but DC live action as a whole. And finally today, I want to go back to this huge interview with Matt Reeves in Esquire magazine, because I think it's very, very important, because it really shows us and shows you who haven't seen the movie yet how he saw Batman in making this movie. As we've discussed already today, he's very honest about his take and what he wanted to do with the Batman. Director Matt Reeves says the Batman is inspired by 1970s cinema, 1980s comic book and Nirvana. Now this is interesting with Nirvana, because having seen the film, I absolutely know what he's talking about. But it was a very interesting comparison, comparing Nirvana and Batman. Anyway, the 55-year-old opens up about the pressure of taking on The Dark Knight and his decision to cast Robert Pattinson in the role. With great power comes great responsibility. Yes, we know that's a different superhero, but how is the director of the Batman feeling? Terrified, says Matt Reeves. Imagine the pressure on this one man. The journey to the screen of the new Batman movie has been a long and grueling one. Almost a decade ago, when Ben Affleck was cast as the Caped Crusader in Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice, it is Affleck's most successful film at the box office by every other metric. It was a disaster. Critics hated it, fans hated it, and it launched DC down a route of superhero ensemble movies, Suicide Squad, Justice League, that got worse and worse. For every new start in ever more twinkling Marvel Cinematic Universe, rival DC couldn't catch a break. The memory of Christopher Nolan's benchmark, the Dark Knight trilogy, appeared to be going gently into that good night. The best bet for Bat fans looked like another outing for a Lego Batman, which at least was funny, but DC wanted another Batman movie. And who can blame them? Ka-ching! Batman is their hugest, most popular character. Why wouldn't they want a new movie? This was a movie that was supposed to continue Ben Affleck's movie series, Ben Affleck's Batman. Ultimately, it didn't happen. they put in a call to Matt Reeves, director of the acclaimed monster movie Cloverfield 2008, as well as Dawn of the Planet of the Apes 2014 and War of the Planet of the Apes 2017. Ben Affleck had been working on a version of the script, Reeves said, and I said, and this is what we talked about earlier, here's the thing, I respect that the DC universe has become an extended universe and all the movies were kind of connected, but another Batman film, it shouldn't have to carry the weight of connecting the characters from all those other movies. I didn't want them in there. Because he wanted to do his own thing. A Batman movie without Aquaman, he can control sea life. Cyborg, he's a cyborg. Any of the rest of the corny Justice League characters already sounded like a 100% improvement. As Robert Pattinson, well, get to him, says in a 2-minute promotional showreel for the new film, Batman has stood out as one of the major characters of the 20th century, and so many people connect with it on such a deep level for so many reasons. He deserved better. That's interesting, isn't it? So he's clearly talking about Justice League. Interesting. Reeves' next issue was this. Sure, you could reboot Batman. It's been done dozens of times since he first appeared in Detective Comics in 1939. Almost certainly more. But would anyone have the stomach for yet another retelling of his original story from a slightly different angle? We've seen it in so many times, Reeves says. It's been done too much. I knew we couldn't do that. So he's talking about not doing a direct origin, but the narrative is there with a slight origin, so it's interesting. He set about a ton of reading and was blown away by the comic Batman Year One, the 1987 4-issue run by writer Frank Miller and artist David Muschietti that showed a young and in turmoil Bruce Wayne figuring out how to be a vigilante. The tone is detective noir. The violence is street level and nasty, and you will search in vain for a feat of superhero daring-do or a groaning Mr. Freeze allow me to break the ice style pun. Calling Batman Year One realistic would be a stretch, but it is somewhere near as realistic as a comic book about a mentally dubious loner who puts on a disguise and begins hunting criminals come night. This proto-Batman underestimates his opponents, gets shot by the police, and his costume doesn't fit. It's great, and it happens to be my favourite comic book. Other influences on Reeves included New Hollywood classic from the 1970s, The French Connection, Chinatown, Taxi Driver, also Kurt Cobain, which is very random, of course. Early on, I was writing. I started listening to Nirvana, and there was something about Nevermind songs, something, let me just clear my throat, something in the way which is in the first trailer, which is part of the voice of the character. When I considered how you do Bruce Wayne in a way that hasn't been seen before, I started thinking, what if some tragedy happened, i.e. Wayne sees his parents murdered, and this guy becomes so reclusive we don't know what he's doing. Is this guy some kind of wayward, reckless drug addict? The truth is that he's kind of a drug addict. His drug is his addiction to this drive for revenge. He's like a Batman, Kurt Cobain. Batman's main opponent in the Batman is the Riddler, not the Jim Carrey version in the lime grey catsuit covered in question marks from the Val Kilmer's Batman Forever 1995, but a costume-less, scoobly Paul Dano interpretation who communicates with the police via ciphers based on the Zodiac Killer. Batman is one superhero without superpowers, but he is the world's greatest detective. Reeves' Batman, to the shock and awe of the internet when it was announced in 2019, is Robert Pattinson. Of course, the idea to fit with the Year One story was to make him a younger actor, he says, and in the process of writing the movie I watched the fantastic 2017 Safdie brothers film Good Time, and I thought, okay, he's got an inner kind of rage that connects with the character and a dangerousness, and I can feel this desperation, and I became dead set on it being Rob, and I had no idea if Rob had any interest because of course he had done all of these indie movies after he established himself in Twilight. Unbeknownst to Reeves, or presumably anyone at DC, had one thing on his side. Pattinson was a huge Batman fan. He'd heard that we were doing this and got excited about the idea that there was going to be another version of this character, Reeves says. And so when I met him and he read the script, he talked for a long time and I realised this guy is a massive fan. Pattinson fit the part, but he still had to audition. Ridiculously, he did so in Val Kilmer's old Batsuit. Warner Brothers are like, look, we're not going to make anything for somebody for a screen test, but you go there into WB and they've got all the suits going back to Michael Keaton. They said, look, we've done this on every single one. Christian Bale came in and he put on the original suits. I'm not going to say it fitted well, Reeves continues, but it fitted the best. It was sort of old, and as he started acting, he started heating up the cowl, and the cowl started to sag on his face. You could see him thinking, how am I going to act in this suit? But putting on a Batman suit is always transformative. You start to feel the power of having that armor on. Completing the grunge Gotham vibe as the 31 million people who saw the Batman trailer in its first 24 hours noticed, Pattinson's Batman is wearing emo eyeliner. What's up with that? You can't wear a cowl and not wear that. All of the Batmen wear that, says Reeves. Not entirely convincingly. I just love the idea of taking off the mask, and under that there's the sweating and the dripping and the whole theatricality of becoming this character. It's the realism that Reeves has imparted, even in the cowl and the eye makeup, and you'll understand when you see the movie. So it's spot on, and it works. One of the things that makes the Batman character so interesting is that he's so malleable. He can be campy Adam West from the 1960s or angry Christian Bale from the 2000s, and both are equally valid. By an overwhelming majority, the YouTube comment section is going crazy for the I'm Vengeance. This guy's nuts. Punchiness of Pattinson's 2020s version, based on 2 or 3 trailers, but it's fair to say that not everyone thought the skinny guy from Twilight was a stroke of genius casting. There has been no actor there has been no actor when his announcement that he was going to be playing Batman in one of the feature films was announced that has not received the backlash, Reeves says, and that's true. The people who were excited, I knew it was because they knew Rob's work post-Twilight. The people who weren't excited, I knew it was because they didn't know Rob's work post-Twilight. What about the other iconography that comes with the character? However you choose to tell this story, in the Batman, Wayne Manor is depicted as falling to bits. He doesn't care about any of the trappings of being a millionaire. Wayne, at this point, Reeves says, citing Gus Van Sant's Last Days, the 2005 fictionalized version of Kurt Cobain's sad, slow demise, just like that film, will apparently see amps stacked up in a storage room. The new Batcave is based on a secret underground railway that still exists in New York. The idea being that some of these wealthy industrialist families had private train cars at the turn of the century. So the Batcave is actually in the foundation of this tower. It was another way of saying, how can we root all these things in things that feel real but also extraordinary? And finally, a new Batmobile. The Nolan film established the Batmobile as a tank. I still love it. Which was, the Tumbler is amazing. Which was a brilliant idea, Reeves says. But I thought, wouldn't it be cool if this guy is a loner and the gearhead and fashioning these things by himself, taking parts of other cars and kit cars so it's recognisable as a car this time. But it's like a muscle car, one that he's made himself. Of course, the car Green Arrow has in the comics, I think, is called the muscle car, isn't it? But it's like a muscle car, one that he's made himself. Reeves says it's daunting but also hugely exciting to see his Batman come to life. He is days away from finishing the film when this interview takes place, late 2021. I'm very proud of it. You should be, Matt. It's a fabulous film. I thought it was the best version of the story that we could possibly do to justify having another Batman, he says. You always have to have a reason, and from the beginning that was the mission for me. Sequels and Gotham City-based spin-offs are being planned. It's safe to assume they will remain Aquaman free, at least for now. It will obviously have a lot to do with how people receive this film, Reeves says, but a lot of things are in the works. That's another quote I read earlier. I think it was important for me to go back to that Esquire magazine because a lot of quotes are being pulled out of it, and sometimes I mistake them as new quotes, and I remember Matt made these quotes in interviews. So I thought, because it's such a fabulous article, we could read it out in today's DCEU Daily. So Let me tell you what I know, that Matt Reeves is the founder and creator and leader of this brand new Earth 2. Matt Reeves is planning beyond Batman, but he will continue telling his Robert Pattinson Batman Year 2 and beyond story. He will also create a Superman, a Wonder Woman, and his own Aquaman. He's creating his own DC universe. He is bringing his own team of creatives and combining with DC comic book artists and writers to create a fabulous extended Earth 2 that is all his own. And of course, this is very, very exciting, as I said earlier. The multiverse, Matt Reeves' Earth 2. And you know, I'm sure they're planning to bring other creatives to create their own Earths. This is a fabulous idea. This is very exciting. And us DC fans, as I keep on saying, are going to be eating well in 2022 and beyond. This has been the DCEU Daily. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this perfection. I'm not that unattractive, am I? And of course, I will see you again tomorrow for even more DCEU Daily. Thank you for the views. Thank you for the likes. We will come away from using a tablet to make videos very soon. I'm in the process of choosing the tech. We're taking this channel to another level. A genuine channel with a genuine fan talking to you about things that you love and I love. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Until then, goodbye, au revoir. Auf Wiedersehen.